learn something, but at the same time not overwhelmed. And I haven't doing a lot of thinking about it, but I haven't got it designed where I think it's reasonable for you to go through it. So, yeah, anyway, we're going to do something. I'm probably going to read it from the assignment and then give some credit for those that did well, but at the same time having to do it in the context, the greater context maybe of the safety that we're studying right now in the leadership role that you're using. Okay? So, probably look forward to that after the break, I would think. I may invite it Monday if I can get around to it, I don't know, but anyway. Okay, we started talking about the safety and the culture that we need to make sure that we establish. We talked about how you know that it exists, that you have sufficient culture, and you've got to have a lot of things going on that you can sense, like people talking about it, what's wrong, what needs to improve, and you are in the process of improving that as it happens, as you become aware of things. Does it get stuck on the back burner somewhere? You immediately evaluate the potential risk and means to mitigate it, and you begin to build it into your process and governance, right? Okay, how do you know if it's sufficient to avoid accidents or incidents? Well, this is this is the realm you young people have decided you want to go into. This is a combination of technical engineering technology combined with systems, combined with humans, right? You get all three of those complexities that you've got to come to grips with how you're going to effectively manage in order to create the culture, the systems, apply the technology, and get the people to use all of that to avoid incidences, right? And at the same time, you've got to get the work done, right? I mean, all of this is about getting work done. If we're not getting work done, doesn't matter how safe we are, doesn't matter how, all of that has to be focused. The trustworthiness, everything needs to be focused on performance, delivering client value faster than competitors. Not just finally getting the job done, but we got to get it done cheaper, faster, better than competitors, right? Because we're in business. If we don't, all this stuff we're doing doesn't make any difference. You're not going to get the job, or if you do, you're not going to make money, and then you can't get the next job because the costs have got out of the roof, right? So it all has to be focused on doing things more competitively. Okay? Okay, so how do you identify holes in that culture and respond to them quickly? That's both an active process that you have to create as a leader, manager in the company, okay? You're going to set systems in place, but you also have to have the relationships so that people feel comfortable in coming into your office, closing the door, and saying, Bob, you may not know this, but this and this and this is going on. Does that make sense? Okay? And if each individual at any level of the company doesn't have that capability, that trust in others that they're going to use it for the benefit of everyone, and somehow they're going to have to pay for that, then it's not going to happen, at least at the rate that you need it to happen in order for you to create the systems that are going to be effective for you. Okay? So lots of behavioral things. You're going to have rules, you're going to have regulations, you're going to have norms. These are expectations of behavior. You want to avoid the corporate hypocrisy. We all know what that is now. And the associated cynicism, right? It's a way of thinking. It's dispelling these things that don't effectively create and sustain the necessary culture, right? You got to look at what happens around the water cooler. Okay? What are people talking about? When a new person comes into the company, how do they get inculcated into the culture? Do they believe it? that you really care, that your systems really work, right? That if they do their part, then they're going to be safe. Okay. Oh, put this. There. Okay, I want to go to the bottom of the barrel, and let's talk about the ultimate tough guy. Okay? This, if you're not familiar with it, is Al Capone, a very famous gangster in Chicago. Some statements that he made were, don't mistake my kindness for weakness. I'm kind to everyone. But when someone is unkind to me, weak is not what you're going to remember about me. Okay? I mean, this is a guy that could walk up and shoot you in the head and not even think twice about it. Right? Another statement he says, I'm not heartless. I just learned how to use my heart less. Interesting. He says, and he believes, everybody wants to be a gangster until it's time to do some gangster stuff. Okay? Okay, now you have Dale Carnegie. Who's Dale Carnegie? Everybody should know Dale Carnegie, sure. Right? No? Okay. You got to step back a decade or two into the realm of Dale Carnegie. This is a guy came out of the Carnegie family. Okay, we're talking the steel industry, a lot of unions, a lot of mess there, right? Paid $1 million a day, clear back then, because he could learn everybody's name. Okay, he knew he could walk through the plant. Okay, call people by name, and he paid attention enough that he could compliment them, honestly compliment them everywhere. No matter who it was in the company, if he saw them, he knew something about them that he could compliment. And because he was able to do that, he was worth $1 million a day just walking around the company complimenting people. Okay? So anyway, eventually he set up a Dale Carnegie Institute. It still exists today, though he's long gone. And this is what one of the famous statements out of Dale Carnegie. He said, everyone does what they do because they want something. What differentiates people is what they want. Okay? So Al Capone wanted to be known as this, right? The ultimate tough guy. He wanted money. He wanted to change your life into his money, right? That's what he wanted. So we got to ask, what do we want? Because that's going to drive us. According to Dale Carnegie, that's the underlying motivation that we have, is what do we want? Okay? Do we want the relationships that last a career, last a lifetime, that we develop over time, where wherever we go, people follow us and want to work with us because they know life is better there? Is that what we want? Do we want just a big pile of money when we're done? Doesn't matter how we got it or who we step on or whose back we crawl up to get it? Is that what we want? Okay? So think deeply about that. Motivation, the sincere caring, the invested, genuine stake in each other's success, the love of people more than property, because this is all safety related, right? The hope, the desire that all the effort that we put in is going to be based on. Okay, picture the executive. I've been in a meeting where the chief executive gets word that somebody's been killed on his watch on the job site, and I looked to see what the reaction was. It was none. Well, we got a serious problem here. that, yeah, that really hurts our statistics when we go to bid the next job. Yeah. Okay. Was he the one that went to the wife and explained why on his watch somebody got killed? No, not even close. Was he the one that went out to the job site to lead the investigation into how we let this happen? No. Is he the one that looked in the mirror at night and said, "Is it I?" No. There wasn't even any emotion there, with expectation that he was going to have to go through those things and face the music. He felt like he was insulated. Well, it's the other guy's fault. Okay? Now, this went on for decades in our industry. Nobody took responsibility and ownership of this, least of all the clients. Okay, so what's reasonable? You know, when we smile at people and we tell them we have a safety program, right? Are we a cordial hypocrite, knowing full well it's not going to work, that somebody's going to give us a call sometime, and you know this incident's going to occur, and there's no way to control that anyway? Is that what we believe? Okay. Remember, you did something for someone else. Remember the last time that you did that. Not because you were going to get paid for it, but just for the joy of doing it. Is that the kind of feeling you want as a project manager, that you created this culture, this system, this ability to help people have a very nice living and go home every day safe from the job site? Is that what you want? That's entirely possible. But you're going to have to go through some real tough things to get there. It's not going to just happen because we wish it would. Okay, so part of the issue here is technical credibility, isn't it? We got to understand some stuff. We got to personally shoulder the safety, actively and profoundly altering what we consider to be reasonable. Okay, with that executive I just mentioned, he didn't think it was reasonable to do anything other than what he's already doing. I think that could probably be said for most managers and executives in our industry. In fact, that's probably could be said for just about everybody. We do what we think is reasonable to do, right? On the other hand, if we're going to change anything, that means that we got to change what we consider to be reasonable, don't we? And to change what's reasonable in our minds, we have to understand something differently, right? And oftentimes that involves some additional technical credibility. Oh, you mean somebody else doesn't do that? Didn't have that happen? How do they prevent it from happening? Do we go and learn that? That's going to take some extra effort. It's going to take resources. It's going to take training. Our training. Oh my goodness. It was interesting to me when I looked at the difference in the legal, when an industry fails to police itself effectively, eventually you're going to see the heavy hand of government that's going to come down and try to force that issue, right? If an industry is not delivering it what society wants, society is not willing to accept it, then society defines a government that's going to come and force them to do it, right? So you can just expect that. Well, the Canadians are a little bit ahead of us in that regard. When I became an executive in charge of a project that was done in Canada, even though it was a U.S. company, I became subject to, as an executive, the laws of Canada. And the laws of Canada require that as an executive, I get executive safety training. What are my responsibilities? And what is the government of Canada going to keep me or expect me to do and hold me liable for doing? And they made it very clear in that training about a number of things that we have built into what we're training here today. Okay? They had some experts on safety that said, you know, let's get it out on the table. How do we fix this? Well, part of the whole picture is the executive behavior, isn't it? So what should we expect executives to do? Well, they got to set all these systems up. Well, they got to provide the training. They got to provide the resources. They even got to provide a continuous improvement program where they're measuring what's happening, they're getting lessons learned, they're dealing with near misses, and they're improving whatever the heck they've got in place continuously and forever. And if you have an incident on your job site and you can't show that you've done that, we're going to throw you in jail, Mr. Executive. And we don't care who the heck you are. Okay, so we got to take ownership of this thing. Resolving concerns that people have. The integration with the balance of performance. I mean, it's all about making money, right? I mean, we got to make money. If we don't, we're not going to be in business to keep people safe. Right? Somebody else is going to build it. They may not keep people as safe as we could if we would. So we got to integrate what we're doing with the balance of performance expectations, with the quality, productivity, duration, cost, employee morale, environmental protection. All of that's got to be done simultaneously. And it's got to be done production unit by production unit, task by task, whether it's an engineering task, a procurement task, or a construction task. Anything related to safety needs to be built into those processes, doesn't it? When they're done, at the outset, when we're planning them, and then assured that it's going to be built in. Okay? So, this got to be clearly in the minds of the executives, to the design leads, to the foreman, and there isn't any substitute. Why, I might just ask you, why is there no substitute for that? Why can't we have just the general foreman understand and be trained, or just the safety manager on the job understand and be trained in safety? Why does the foreman have to know? Why do the people on the foreman's team have to know? Why do you need to know? Yeah.
Well, like if an accident happens, if it's bad, you probably can't like wait around until the safety person gets there. You need to like take action right away.
Okay, that's one thing for sure. We got to have first aid knowledge, don't we? Because sometimes you're right. You know, something's in the eye, somebody starts rubbing their eye, it gets a whole lot worse in a big hurry, doesn't it? And somebody's got to be willing to step forward and say, no, don't do that, and take their hand physically away from their eye, and say, hang on a minute, let's go get you some help. Okay? Or how about that guy that was standing, I gave you an example of a international shipping container, where the guy was standing beside it and took it off, and the beam rolled out, right? So if that person, what's one of the primary safety features or principles that we have to understand if we're going to remain safe? That was violated there by the guy standing right beside that shipping container.
The system.
Okay, elaborate, what do you mean?
Not the physical guard, but the process that you do things so that everyone's getting safely.
Okay, that's true. But there's a principle here that we talk about a lot. And I hope they covered that at least somewhat in your 10-hour training. But it's energy. There's certain forms of energy. There's energy of location, right? You got something that's heavy, it's got energy stored in it, right? If it can fall, you have to think about that. If we are using, a knife, I'm a Boy Scout and I got a knife, right? And I'm whittling something, I got to think about where the force is going to go. I got energy I developed against the object, right? And I got to think about, okay, if it's slipped, where does the energy go? And I got to say, I got to make sure that that energy, if it is out of control, number one, I want to keep it under control. Number two, if it gets out of control, what happens? What's the risk? Can we make that risk be mitigated? It goes out in the air, not into my buddy. I don't sit too close to my buddy. I'm chopping wood, I draw a blood circle around it, so that whatever I'm doing, wherever I'm chopping, nobody's close enough to get hit, right? Okay, now when we get to the industrial sector, what does that mean for that guy standing next to that container? I think somebody mentioned it when we were talking about that. Where should he have been standing? Yeah, where there was no energy that could get loose anywhere. If anything falls out of that container, okay, it's going to the ground and it's not going to hurt anything, right? And he's got to understand that. So if all else fails, he knows I'm not going to stand there. Right? I got nowhere to go. There's another shipping container right here. I couldn't even jump out of the way. So why sandwich myself in there? Does that make sense? Okay, so there isn't any substitute to having those kinds of things clearly in the minds of the people, all the way from the top to the bottom. Okay? It's not, sometimes when I was in another company, the executives decided the reason why they were successful in being able to go millions of man hours without lost time instances was associated with them getting out of the way of the safety manager who knew what he was doing and let him do his job. Well, okay, that works to a point. At least it was better than getting in his way, right? But why is that not sufficient? What's the problem with that? What's the limit of that? Nobody suggests a limit? Yeah.
It's not a culture, then it's just one person, and if that person leaves, there's no one carrying on the safety culture.
Yeah. If you've got, let's say we got the CEO up here, okay? Mr. CEO, he doesn't know, right? Under him, we've got executive vice presidents. Okay, I'm one of those. Okay, and under me, I got a vice president of safety. Okay, so let's say that I know, VP of safety knows, and he's got safety managers on project site, and they know, right? So suppose that the other people in the, you got lots of executive vice presidents up here, don't you? 5, 6 of them. Okay, if they don't, if this guy doesn't know, then obviously these guys don't need to know either, right? So they're in charge of projects. They're doing projects all over the place, right? They're in charge of various aspects, just not safety. Well, okay, so now when you get into trouble on a project, when the safety manager here is being directed one way and the project management group is directing the project another way, you've got an inherent conflict of interest, don't you? You created a condition, a situation where your culture is not united. You got production over here saying one thing, you got the safety people over here saying something else, and you get your people caught in between. And you create holes in your culture. Okay? Because they're not on the same page. And oh my gosh, I mean, I could send you all kinds of root cause analysis that will lead right back to that problem right there. Okay? Okay, so, where are we here? You can't just get out of the way. Everybody's got to be on the same page. You know, it's kind of like the T. I like the T shape of people's expertise, right? Do they know everything that the safety manager, I mean, this guy right here, he has the equivalent of a bachelor's degree in safety. I mean, he is good. He knows his stuff. He knows how to organize people, how to manage these safety managers on projects. I mean, he's really good. Do we expect everybody to be at that level? We'd never get out of school, would we? Okay? So no, we don't. But we do expect a very broad understanding of all of those factors, right? And our expertise then goes deep in something that we contribute to others in the company with. Okay? But when it comes to getting the stakeholders together to create the standards under which we're going to govern this thing, we have to include all of these people. And they got to understand the deep reservoirs that come from each of the individuals, whether it's production or procurement or time control or cost control. All of those aspects have to be understood at a broad, flat level by everyone. And the ones to make that happen, okay, it's this guy, right? He's got to be the one to encourage that. Does that make sense? And that means he's got to set the example. All the leadership issues that we talk about. Okay? So let's get into that a little bit more here. On that sheet, we said, okay, how does the industry, how should we be defining what does it involve? Okay? Well, I start out here with vision. What is the vision about? What do you mean that vision? If you're a leader, any of these levels, project management, whatever it is, what vision have we got here? What does that mean? Yeah.
Kind of like Dale Carnegie's example of vision, as it regards to like creating a community or culture that feels valued. And so in regards to that, as a leader, your job is making them feel valued so that they can do their job to the best possible, best possible way, and then they're going to have a greater impact overall.
Okay. Okay, you got to have some idea, some concept. You know, vision is something that's in the future, right? It doesn't exist right now. Okay? But our vision is how we're going to beat those competition, right? How we're going to be better than Jacobs, Kiewit, and all those other boys out there, right? We're going to be better than them. We're going to get work. And we're going to do it better than any of our competitors do, right? So our vision is why you want to hitch your cart to our wagon, or your wagon to our train, right? Why should you want to do that? Because we got a vision, okay? And it involves you, it's going to be mutually beneficial, and we're going to beat those guys. We're going to be better, faster, cheaper, and we're going to deliver. Okay? That's the vision you got to have. Now your component, I mean, there's a really nice sign I like. And it says, you got to put it above your desk. Whatever thou art, do thy part. Act well thy part. Okay? So in that big vision, okay, the guy that sets the big vision is the CEO, right? He's got to pull these guys all together, and the next layer too, right? And say, okay guys, how are we going to do this? How are we going to beat the competition? They're pretty dang good over there, right? So what's our vision on how we're going to beat them? Do we just take what they don't want? You know, the crumbs that fall from the table that, Bechtel doesn't want that, so that's, I've heard that settlement said, hey, Bechtel wants it, Bechtel gets it. But they don't want everything, so we'll take it.